Luke Pollard.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it is a pleasure to follow my fellow South West MP, fellow cooperator and fellow Shadow DEFRA Minister, the Honourable for Stroud. As we've heard from honourable friends on both sides of the chamber, there is a real energy and dynamism around cooperatives now and around the values that they stand for. I really think we need to grasp the opportunity to stop just talking about cooperatives and mutuals as a worthy activity that happens on the periphery of our economy and have it as a mainstream alternative, a mainstream option for nearly every single area of public and private organisation. And that's what we need to be looking at much more. And I'm really glad that there's so many of the, in particular, cooperative MPs on this side of the House who have spoken so passionately about the opportunities that lie ahead. Because that's really what I want to talk about, because the time for cooperatives really is now, and we must seize the nettle. But before I go into my speech, I want to echo the praise and thanks for my honourable friend from Harrow West for serving so long as chair of our party. He would have got less time for murder, I'm sure, but he has done a very good job. I also want to put on record my thanks to the outgoing General Secretary of the Cooperative Party. Claire McCarthy has served our party and our movement incredibly well, and I know that we all wish her well for her next stage in her career and wish the best of luck to all the contenders that are being interviewed for her replacement. Madam Deputy Speaker, as a Labour and Cooperative MP, I'm very proud to have stood on a manifesto that pledged to at least double the size of the cooperative sector. And as Plymouth's voice in this debate, I want to tell you a little bit about what Plymouth is aiming to do, because we have a Labour and Cooperative-run City Council who have pledged to double the size of our cooperative economy in our city by 2025. Now, the Minister will know many of these things well as a former Conservative candidate for a Plymouth seat, so I know that he will welcome and pay special attention to the remarks I'm about to make. Doubling the size of the cooperative economy is a worthy ambition of our times, and to achieve that we need to not only accelerate community wealth building initiatives, reviewing procurement and providing support to grow the capacity of cooperatives to engage in procurement exercises, we also need to focus on economic development policies. Because one thing that I think is sometimes frustrating for those folks that are really passionate about cooperative politics is that sometimes cooperative politics tends to be put in just in procurement. If only we procured differently, then we could grow our economy. And yes, they are right, and we should and we must. But we also must not neglect the importance of cooperative economic development policies. And in that regard, that's really where Plymouth City Council have really led the way on this one here. Now, in the Plymouth City Council strategy that has recently been published, which is called Doing It Ourselves, the ambition to double the size of our cooperative economy has been laid out from the current 23 co-ops that we have in our city currently to grow to 50 co-ops, from a turnover of 18.6 million to grow to 40 million, 9,500 members to 20,000 members, and from 226 employees to 500 employees. This is a really good ambition. And one of the challenges I would like every single member in this House to take away is to put a challenge to their own councils, be they Labour and Cooperative, or be they of the Blue Team persuasion, to say, what are you doing at a local level to encourage the economic development and growth and starting of new cooperatives? Because the focus Plymouth has on the wellbeing economy, on community-owned infrastructure, on worker-owned tech and creative industries, on public-facing and cultural hubs and municipal cooperation is something that rightly Plymouth is very proud of, but it is not Devon specific. It can work in every part of the country, and that really is where many of the things I want to talk about now relate to. Now, before I go into that, Madam Speaker, I'm very proud to be a member of these cooperatives that I'm speaking about today, and I hope that honourable members will consider also joining these cooperatives after they've heard what I've spoken about. The first cooperative is one that I've spoken about in this House before, and that is Plymouth Energy Community, set up in 2013 to provide radical and green solutions to fuel poverty, which affects 13.4% of the people who live in Plymouth. Since they've started, they've done amazing things. In 2014, they invited members of the public to buy a stake in that cooperative. As the honourable friend from Stoke-on-Trent spoke about, the importance of crowdfunding is really important, and at the time we had the lowest buy-in level of any crowdfunding cooperative in the country of only £50, nearly £450 lower than any other at that time, making cooperative ownership in innovative projects something available to more and more people. Having raised over £600,000 and with £500,000 loan from Plymouth City Council, they provided solar panels for 21 schools and community buildings. They've gone on further to add an extra 15 primary schools to that list, with new solar panels now on the roof of our Olympic quality sports centre, the Life Centre, and opening of their first solar farm at Ernesettle. It really is incredibly exciting. They've also become a real champion for insulation and for energy efficiency, helping those communities, especially on low incomes, in Devonport, in the patch that I represent, but in St Budo and Ham, in the north of the city, really invest in reducing the energy costs of their homes by investing in infrastructure and an upgrade. And that is something that they are very proud of and should be. I spoke to them on the Time Is Now demonstration on Lambeth Bridge yesterday, because as well as being an organisation that has excited people to invest in infrastructure, they're a cooperative that's exciting people to get involved in the fight against climate change, and rightly so. But Plymouth is not just about solar panels on primary schools, it's also about how we use cooperatives to challenge those big evils of our time, and one of those is hunger for school children. And that's where Catered, the cooperative owned jointly between Plymouth City Council and 67 of our primary schools, has really pioneered this. In pooling together all the school catering contracts for our entire city, of all different types of school, because Plymouth has one of every school every government since 1945 has ever thought of. Diversity of provision is not our problem in Plymouth. The lack of funding is. And so they pulled together those school contracts. And now Catered not only provide wholesome, healthy food all year round, they provide it over the summer as well. And to their great credit, instead of providing school meals for those kids who can't afford to feed themselves properly over the summer from empty school buildings, they provide it from parks, reducing the stigma for those families who really struggle for food to be able to get that food during the summer. And that is something I'm happy to.
First of all, I can congratulate the work that Plymouth are doing. Genuinely, they are leading the way on many of these issues, and the council is fantastic. Isn't he highlighting actually what makes cooperatives special? They are enterprise and they are profitable, but actually they're also a movement that people take part of and feel really connected to.
Well, absolutely. I think what the opportunity is to engage more people in that energy and that dynamism. Because as a response to what we've seen with Brexit, as a response to a globalised world where we can call anyone around the world from our phones, but very few of us will know in depth our neighbours as we once used to, we need to build community cohesion, and doing that in an environment that supports business growth and enterprise and innovation via cooperatives, I think has to be part of the solution. I also now want to take a moment, Madam Deputy Speaker, to talk about the Nudge Community Builders, which is one of Plymouth's newest cooperatives that I'm again very proud to be a member of. Now, the Minister may know from his time in Plymouth about Union Street, a famed drinking haunt that used to have pubs from one end to the other. Now, when the fleet came in after their manoeuvres at sea, used to be seen to, let me say, a few cheeky beers. We're now down to one pub on Union Street, and fortunately, Union Street echoes the story of Stonehouse of poverty and deprivation. And the fantastic team at Nudge Community Builders have taken over via a community share issue, the Clipper, one of the Plymouth's most notorious drinking haunts, which you would never have found me in my youth, and has turned it into a real hub of community regeneration in Plymouth. Not only providing low-cost space for people to demonstrate their products, to bring creative arts to the market, to be able to grow, and the No Way Cooperative, talking about incredible gluten-free, healthy foods, has taken up residence there and has grown and grown and grown as a business. They are doing incredible things there. That was funded by £204,750 from crowdfunding from 151 investors in just 67 days. Thanks to multiplier effects, Wendy and Hannah and the team at Nudge have redone something incredibly special there. And again, not particular specific to Plymouth, but a great example of what can be done. And in the true spirit of the Rochdale pioneers, Plymouth is going above and beyond this. So Plymouth City Council are the shareholders of the South West Mutual Bank, because we don't just talk about financial inclusion and what happens after the decline of high street banks. They're opening their own South West Mutual Bank to serve the 4 counties of the far South West. And that's really where Plymouth is leading the way in this respect. There is a cooperative renaissance happening in our towns and cities, which sometimes is lost on policymakers in London. So I'd encourage the Minister to send his officials, send them to Plymouth, send them to cities and towns right across the country that are really leading in this respect. And I know that we host government officials looking at the cooperative story in Plymouth, often in Plymouth, and more are welcome to come, because that success story needs to be told and thought of, because it is also a temporary one from local government. So when Labour lost control of Plymouth City Council recently, we'd lost our status as a cooperative council. And to the great regret that I think the honourable member from Wickham spoke about, that some of those same values and passions weren't felt always by the Conservative councillors that replaced Labour ones. I'm very glad we've got a Labour council back, and under the incredible leadership of Councillor Tudor Evans, with Councillor Chris Penberthy, they're really driving an innovative cooperative agenda forwards. And it's not just in those areas. The opportunity to at least double our cooperative economy also works in fishing in Plymouth as well. There are 1,000 jobs in fishing in Plymouth, and just as my honourable friend from Stroud spoke about agriculture, his passion, let me speak momentarily about fishing, because within the fishing industry we have already an incredible cooperative success story. The opportunity to double the amount of jobs that comes from increased processing, increased catching, sharing opportunities, sharing innovation, especially in tackling ghost gear and plastic pollution, is something that we really must seize. And this is where I think the Minister has the opportunity to spread the narrative that doubling the size of the cooperative economy doesn't just mean creating another co-op group. It means giving the tools and the skills, the funding and the support to innovators right across our country to do interesting things, innovative things with people alongside our communities to innovate and change. And that is certainly happening in Plymouth. I think there is a real opportunity, Madam Deputy Speaker, to mainstream cooperative values. I don't want our time on this, my time as a Member of Parliament here, to be defined by an annual debate on cooperatives, where well-meaning, good Members of Parliament from both sides express their hopes and dreams about what the future could be. I want us to take this and apply it into every single debate. So every single debate, whether it is about mutual social care provision, whether it's about new mutual models for ownership of our public utilities in the future, can play an important part in that debate, because I think the time for mutuals and cooperatives is now. And I encourage the Minister to grasp it with both hands, because although there's a lot of familiarity and common cause with those on this side of the House for Labour values, I believe the Minister can find Conservative values with those cooperative spirit as well. So whoever is in government, whoever is in charge of our local councils, we can really drive that cooperative agenda forward. The opportunity is there, and I encourage MPs on both sides of the House and local councils and local communities to really grasp it, because it's an incredible opportunity ahead of us. Thank you, Madam President.